So, hi, Len. Thank you so much for giving me today a short interview. Um, you are working for Holidu, and there you work as a senior data analyst. Could you give me a short introduction to you and about your work, and also what is Holidu? What is your business?
Yeah, thanks for having me. And so I'll start a bit with myself. So I'm German, been living in Munich for the last 5 years, but I grew up internationally, so I spent more time outside of Germany than inside of Germany, actually.
Okay.
I I studied bachelor's in business, and then I basically did two internships after that, where I realized the how much companies are really struggling with finding data, with coming up with good insights from data. And then I basically decided to, as a master's, do something called business information management, because even during my internships, I saw the need for this. And then this master program was a nice combination of, say, the more technical coding aspects of data, but also some of the strategy elements of it. So this kind of prepared me quite well for um, the jobs that I would have afterwards. And I was basically, before joining Holidu, I worked as a consultant for IBM for 3 or 4 years.
Mhm.
So also the projects were always analytics focused, but in different industries, sometimes more data pipeline, sometimes more data science. So depending on the project and the client, it was quite diverse. But then, yeah, now I'm at Holidu for, in June, it's going to be a year. So the first year went by very quickly. And here I'm part of the analytics team, which is part of the business intelligence department. And the way that we work as a team is basically we have this satellite analyst concept. So that basically means that for every we're a support department. So every analyst supports one of the major departments we have in the company. So we have one or two analysts for marketing, one that reports to finance, and I work with search, which is kind of like the product team. And this is kind of how we're set up. What Holidu as a company does is basically we help searchers find the perfect vacation rental. And the way we do this is basically that we function as an aggregator. So we connect with a bunch of different vacation home partners,
Okay.
and we basically find the best apartment with the best conditions. So the, to reverse engineer this from the other side, if I'm a homeowner, I'm going to publish my apartment on several different sites because I don't want to rely on a single site to get all my bookings. And sometimes these different sites have different prices, different conditions. And what we do, and that's kind of why Holidu is a data product at its core, is
Mm.
we can basically, by connecting to these partners, we can identify when we have the same apartment and two different providers, and then we would show the one with the best conditions. So that's kind of what Holidu does as a company,
Yes.
in a nutshell.
Cool. Um, mm, you say you're really experienced and you're kind of expert data and insights from data. In your opinion, what does it take to create added value from these insights? Um, how can insights be translated? How do you work with these?
It's a good question, and I think it doesn't start with the insights. I think we have to take like a few steps back. So um, this is kind of where business I mean, you hear this a lot, but I think you hear it a lot because it's important that it doesn't start with the data or the insights. It starts with understanding the business context that you're working in. So building the relationship with your stakeholders, making sure that you as an analyst understand what they do in their day to day. Once that, so understanding their decision framework and the context that they work in. And only once that is established, does it make sense to basically talk about the problems they have and asking the right questions? Because oftentimes it's the formulation of the questions that determine what the potential insights can be. So I would always say, starting with the business context, that helps you and the person you're trying to help ask the right questions. Then as a second step, you would see, okay, do I have the data to answer these questions? Because if you start off with the data, you might already be influencing the answer because you can only answer questions that the data has. Then once we have the right data, we obviously need to talk about the insights we generate from this. And then oftentimes here, the data visualization aspect is also important. So how that insight is presented, how it's communicated, also influences the actions that can be taken. And once the action's actually taken, so you said how can it translated into the right actions? I think there has to be some sort of monitoring in place after the action is taken to make sure that it indeed was the correct action to take. So that's kind of how I would structure this. And I also have there's like one or two concrete examples that we have at Holidu
Okay.
about this. So one of the things that we work a lot with is basically dates and searches. So when people are checking in, when are people checking out, and am I booking a vacation in 2 weeks' time or in 6 months' time? And using these data points, we can look at a lot of things like the duration of the stay, what's the time until the booking, and if what we need to basically do is help our product team, which is designing the website, to ask the right questions with these data points.
Okay.
And questions might come back like, what's the average number of days until booking? And then it's up to us as the analytics team to basically say, well, first of all, don't use averages because they're terrible. Um, because what we saw is, so we try to use medians and try to as much as we can, because what we actually see is that there's a lot of people that book maybe a year in advance, and these outliers will basically skew the data. So first we have to make sure that the data is being presented in a right way. So, and then we can also see basically, depending on the destination, some people might change the duration of their stay. And with these kind of insights, um, it becomes actionable for the team, because then they can maybe even change the customer experience depending on the kind of search they're doing, depending on the duration of stay. So that's kind of the North Star, is always we want to improve our customer experience. And once we have an action that we think would make sense, and maybe a change to the website to facilitate a better customer experience, we always A/B test it. And then, so that's kind of what I meant with the monitoring of the actions that we take, is the majority, or actually everything that we've changed on the product side, we A/B test. There's a lot of metrics that we monitor during that. And then only if the change brings or only if the action and the change has the effect that we want it to, do we actually roll that out to all our users. So it's quite an intense, or quite a long process from asking the
Yeah,
question
it's a
to
whole
coming up
journey.
every time.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, sometimes it goes faster. So depending on the scale of the change, we can iterate faster. But yeah, it's definitely a whole journey every time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And how is the in your whole team? I mean, would you say that data literacy is a common skill to everyone in your company working with data, or is it something that still needs to be trained in some fields, or maybe you are training it internally?
So uh, we're doing yes to everything, kind of. So to start off, like Holidu, since we're quite a young company, so both in terms of the age of the company and the average age of the employees,
When was
um,
your founding year? Holidu, when was it founded?
uh, this is a good question that I think maybe like, I think 6, 7 years ago. I'd have to
Okay.
check exactly, but roughly
Uh-huh.
this.
Okay.
And so we have so what this basically said is that from the beginning we can set up cloud native. So we don't have any legacy systems. We don't have a lot of these issues that I saw during my consultancy years with quite old established companies. So in that sense, we have a lot of things going for us, because we could start quite it was very technical from the onset. And what we also have is that on average, the colleagues are quite tech savvy. They know how to work with data quite well. And I think also most importantly, we have a lot of management buy-in. So one of the co-founders is the CTO, and he used to have the head of BI role. So he's also very involved and also pushing this whole data topic a lot. So that's kind of what we have going for us at Holidu. And this is kind of so as a baseline, better than I would say most companies that I've interacted with. But
Okay.
that's not to say that we don't have work to do and we're not doing work to improve data literacy, because what we basically found is that as an analytics team, we're only so many people, and if we want to scale the insights and how we're using data in the company, the solution can't be to scale the data team. So what we need to do is basically we want to help our colleagues not solve specific problems, but help them in the analytical art of solving problems, so that basically we so the more they can do themselves and the more they can do self-service analytics,
Mm.
which is also sort of the one of the main themes of the talk. Um, the more we as analysts can actually focus on other kind of analyses
Mm.
that are sort of, if I needed to analyze every time how many users visited our website yesterday, or what
Mm.
was the revenue per user last week, um, this would take up way too much of my time. So what we try to do is basically move with the tools that we have, um, try to give the employees as much options as possible to analyze these kind of things. Um, so we have also like a training academy. We do a lot of videos
Mm.
where we as analysts record how we're working with it, and they can use that to inspire basically other kind of analyses. And one of the main things we also do, which was important, and I underestimated how important this is, we have a tool called Looker, and in this tool, we can actually define specific metrics.
Okay.
So if we take the example value per user, there's a specific numerator and denominator that goes into this calculation. And we as an analytics set that formula, and no one else can change it. So people can't, you know, if we don't do this, then there's three definitions of what we consider a value per user in the company, and that's kind of where things start to get messy. So with giving the employees the ability and the power to analyze a lot by themselves, we as an analytics team have to also mitigate the risk of misinterpretation,
Mm.
and to make sure that they're not coming to false conclusions or
Okay.
incorrect conclusions. So a lot of the work that we're doing now is basically also making sure that the data that we have in Looker and in our tools are easy to use and not to be misinterpreted in any way.
Yeah, so the employee must be confident and feel get insights very quick, not to have to work for hours on getting one answer. So that's important, right?
Mm-hmm.
On our upcoming event, the Data Festival, which will take place on 24th to 25th May in Munich, you will perform on the tech stage, and you will show the participants how to build a data pipeline that empowers for self-service analytics. So you have a full of 90 minutes to do this. This is
Mm-hmm.
pretty long, but you're going deep into it. So what can the participants expect and take away for themselves personally and also professionally in the end?
So I think I'll start with professionally, because personally I have to sing. Uh, so at the 90 minutes, uh, we'll cover a lot of ground, and basically the approach that I'm taking is, so if we take the title of the talk, which is how to build a data pipeline, that's sort of the one section of it. The second part is that empowers. So I'm going to spend some time on explaining who are we empowering? How are we empowering them? And then the third part is self-service analytics. That's basically going into more about, I mean, this is very much a buzzword. What is the Holidu interpretation of this concept, and how are we actually building the tools and building up our data infrastructure to service this? So basically, it's going to be split into three parts, because I think, and where I spend some time on the business concept and the users we're actually building these pipelines for, because what I want to avoid and what I've seen a lot of times is, here's a data pipeline, and there's a massive slide with a bunch of little icons of all the little tools in the data pipeline. So I'll have this slide, but my focus will be also on basically what decisions did we make in order to choose the tools that we did. So what I hope the participants walk away with a little bit is, first of all, that they see parallels between the challenges that we as Holidu face. Some of them we solve, some of them we're still facing, and maybe they see similar challenges in their organization. So one, to facilitate an open discussion, because there never is one right way, but maybe sometimes they'll say, I didn't think of it this way, and maybe that they walk away with a few ideas. That's one of the things I hope for. And like I said, while I will get into sort of the nitty-gritty of the pipeline, I want to focus on why and how, so why we chose a specific tool, how we're working with it, rather than what that specific tool is, because in the data landscape today, there's always many different providers for similar tools. And one thing, there's also one tool which I love a lot, which is called Airflow. So I hope that the that
Okay.
the participants walk away with my love for this tool. But that's a different topic.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, personally, I'm not. We'll have to see. I think it depends a lot on the kind of people that are in the audience that day. But at least I hope. Also,
You will try to catch up the mood and
yeah. So my enthusiasm for data, maybe that's what I hope people walk away with personally.
this sounds really good. Okay. We're already over. I thank you so much for giving us these insights, and I'm really looking forward to your presentation. It's only a few days left till Data Festival, so
Yeah.
we meet each other in Munich then.
Yep. See you there.
See you there. Thank you. Bye.